there any relevance of native speaker norms? That's a question for TEFLologists. Is it better to focus on form or to focus on forms? That's a question for TEFLologists. If you use a textbook, is your classroom authentic, or should your approach be more learner-centric? From feedback to learner autonomy, we'll discuss it all on TEFLology.
Welcome back to the TEFLology Podcast, a podcast about language teaching, applied linguistics, and related matters. Today, we bring you the second of our 3 interview episodes conducted as part of the Global Educators Local Connections Forum at the JALT 2017 convention in Tsukuba, Japan. Today's interview was conducted with Reiko Yoshihara. Reiko Yoshihara is a professor at Nihon University, where she researches feminist pedagogy in TEFL, teaching about gender in EFL contexts, and teacher identity. Our interview focused on these issues, particularly with reference to her 2017 book, The Socially Responsible Feminist EFL Classroom, A Japanese Perspective on Identities, Beliefs and Practices, published by Multilingual Matters. Please enjoy the interview.
Actually, I got a promotion, so I became a professor.
Starting off with good news. So, your book was published, I think, this year?
Yes.
Yeah, I read through it earlier in the week. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
Maybe just for the benefit of the people in the room and for our listeners who might not be so familiar with the subject matter, what is feminist pedagogy, and how did you get interested in that area personally?
Okay. Basically, the feminist pedagogy is an entire sexist teaching. Entire sexist teaching and entire hierarchical teaching, and of course, feminist educators seek for gender equality and also gender and also social justice. Yeah, but the reason why I was very interested in this research is I am feminist EFL teacher, and is it okay to talk kind of long time? Okay, so because maybe let me explain about my academic background, also my personal experience. I graduated from Japanese university and majoring in English and American literature, and then after I graduated from university, I worked for a securities company for 2 years, and it was very, very depressing time. Depressing for me. I don't know how much you understand the Japanese company, but in Japanese company is there is a 2 career track. One is for we call it sogo shoku, which is you can be a president or executive, or you can promote it to be president. But other one is clerical work, and you just stay clerical job, and I engaged in a clerical job, so I didn't have any possibility to become to get a promotion. But anyway, so I was very, very disappointed, work in a company. And then, so I decided to go to United States, and at that time I really wanted to be a anchor, newscaster. And at that time, I was very naive, but at that time I thought, if I become bilingual, I can get a job in a broadcast, whatever. But, when I was in United States, I changed my mind. I was more and more interested in women's studies. And I minored women's studies in undergraduate, and I decided to go to graduate school, and majored in women's studies. And I thought when I went back to Japan, I was able to teach women's studies in Japanese university. But I was so naive, and there is no women's studies in Japanese university. I mean, I don't say no, but maybe there are very, very few, courses in Japanese university. So I was not able to get a job. And then my Japanese professor said to me, "Oh, you can speak English, and you can teach English in Japanese university." And as you know, speaking English is different from teaching English. But I mean, some people don't understand. They think, "Oh, you speak English, so you can teach English." But anyway, at that time, I really wanted get a job. So I took a job, and I started to teach English. But to be honest, I was not very happy at that time, because, I really wanted to teach women's studies, but I didn't get a job. So I started to teach English. So becoming English teacher is not my purpose or my dream at that time. But so I have a very how can I say kind of conflicting feeling between language teacher and kind of researcher about feminist theory. Yeah.
Right. So maybe taking a look at the classroom, you have a chapter in your book about teaching according to feminist principles, and I think you list 8 principles.
Yes.
Yeah, could you talk about a few of those principles? Maybe briefly summarize a few of them.
Okay, so actually, through my research, I found 8 elements of feminist teaching, and the first is teaching about gender-related topics. And I interviewed, my participant, actually, my participant were self-identified feminist teacher and who are teaching Japanese universities. And they told me that, they were teaching about gender-related topics, including gender roles and marriage and balance between work and family and female genital mutilation and domestic violence and LGBT issues. And so at that time I found that they are teaching not only safe issues but challenging issues too. And also, my participants said to me, they are giving equal attention to treatment, in a classroom. And according to the survey, the teachers calls on boys more than girls. So, my participants said to me, they will give equal attention, even special attention to female students. And third is teaching gender-neutral language. And recently, maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, there were kind of gender discriminatory words, such as policeman or fireman or miss or missus, But recently we often see Miss and firefighter or police officer. But my participants said to me, they will point out the neutral language and explain about the historical process. Yeah, and fourth is a group technique for gender awareness, and most of my participants use the group techniques such as pair work and group work and also role plays and discussions to raise gender awareness. And fifth is incorporate women's story into writing techniques. And usually, feminist educators are concerned with journal writing to raise gender awareness. So, so one of my participants said to me, they asked the student to watch the women's speech in TED.com and then write the journals. But at that time, the journals is not the 5-paragraph essay. I mean, how they felt and how they thought. We don't need to talk, think about the 5-paragraph essays, just, focus on how they feel, Yeah, and then 6 is a brewing video about girls and women. And so it is a minor, feminist teaching, but, for example, if we have a, let me see, in a textbook, when we have a chapter, fashion, and in Japanese, English textbook, sometimes the topic is very, very shallow. I mean, the young people really like Uniqlo and Gap and, some Banana Republic or something like that. But, one of the participants said to me, she will bring a documentary film, China Blue, and in China Blue, Chinese women are exploited in a factory. And they are working from morning to night, and they are working in a very, very harsh conditions. But and everybody don't want to watch that kind of movie, But it's very important to raise the awareness about social justice or social equality. And let me see. And 7 is reclaiming local women's issues. I agree with you. I mean, it's very important to bring the local issues into our context, For example, my participant said to me she can bring the separate surnames in marriage in Japan. And maybe, in Western countries, separate surname in marriage is very common. I mean, it's not very special. But in Japan, in our law, we have to have the same name when we have a marriage contract. We are not allowed to have separate names in marriage. So, my participant said to me she will bring the separate surnames in marriage in Japan. And also, just 2 weeks ago, I found that gender index gap in Japan. Do you know that? How rank is in Japan?
Is it 111?
Yes, 114. It went down, last year it was 111, and this year, just 2 weeks ago, I found, 2 weeks ago, it was 114 out of 144 countries. It ranked so low, So, but actually, my participant said, that she can bring that kind of information into the classroom, And ACE is introducing gender-related events. So, one of feminist teaching, feminist pedagogy is, let me see. As our feminist pedagogy, one element, one aim of feminist pedagogy is sisterhood, social change. And, to change our society, we encourage the student to commit political actions or social actions. So, my participant said to me, they encourage the student to attend the AIDS Day walk or, Women's Day on March 8th. Or, actually, I always brought my students to the breast cancer awareness walk, pink ribbon walk, and LGBT events and parade. So, it's very important to commit the political actions, I think. Yeah, that's kind of ACE, element of the feminist teaching.
Yeah, I thought that chapter of the book was very interesting. I've often found when I try to introduce gender issues into my classes, I talk about what you call in the book kind of safe topics. And I feel like
in a lot of ways, I'm more sort of perpetuating stereotypes by just getting students to discuss gender issues at a very basic level. So I thought that was very interesting. You were talking there about raising awareness of social justice issues and so on. One point that you raised very early in the book is the idea that including feminist issues or adopting a feminist perspective in the classroom could be seen by some people as brainwashing students. So how would you respond to that?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that in our field, there is a long debate, on whether we should teach socio-political issues, including gender issues, in language classroom. And there is a debate between Sarah Benesch and Terry Santos. And Sarah Benesch is an advocate of the critical pedagogy. And she believes that, she asserted that, it is very important to include socio-political issues, including gender issues in our classroom, in language classroom. But Terry Santos said, in her context, it's an ESL context in the United States. So the ESL courses, are supposed to be to improve student language skills, because the ESL courses in the United States are supposed to the preparation to get into the university. So they need, students need to improve the TOEFL scores. So Terry Santos argues that, we shouldn't bring the socio-political issues in the classroom. But I strongly support Sarah Benesch, and also, in Japan, the Kip Case and David Petey, they are global educator, and global educator, and then I think I have good kind of the quote from David Petey. Yeah, David Petey said, teaching about global issues shouldn't be considered as indoctrination if our international society accept and respect the principles, values, and goals for social equality and justice. And along with his assertion, I think teaching about gender issues shouldn't be considered as indoctrination if our international society accept and respect principles, values, goals for gender equality and justice. So, I don't think, the teaching about gender issues shouldn't be considered as an indoctrination.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just at the end there, you were talking about international society. So the theme of the conference is language teaching in a global age. How do you think that feminist pedagogy has the potential or could help to prepare students for being part of an international society, maybe even for global citizenship in some sense?
Let me see. Let me see. Actually, I don't know, it might be related or not, but I was very influenced by Kip Cates' article. He wrote about I forgot the title, but he wrote about the importance of global issues and global educator. And he asked readers, what is your responsibility as a language teacher? And I reflected myself, what is responsibility as a EFL teacher myself. And actually, I belong to the study group, and we invited Kip Cates to our group. And then I was very challenging. And, I asked him, you talk about the importance of global issues. You didn't touch on gender issues. Why not? Because, you said, it's very global citizen, and, in a global age, it's very important to think critically and think of social injustice, inequality, and why don't you talk about gender issues? I was very challenging. I was very rude, maybe. But, he was very, very acceptable person, and he said to me, maybe this is my weak point. So, talking about gender issues is your duty and responsibility. And, I was so impressed, and yeah, that's right, and maybe, so everybody is not perfect, so maybe, keep case, have a, weak point, and maybe, teaching about the gender issue is not, strong point for him, but maybe, for me, teaching about gender issues, my strong point. So, this is my responsibility to do it, Yeah. I'm sorry, it might be off topic, but yeah.
No, that's fine. Okay, so I think we'll end things there. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's have a round of applause for Reiko Yoshihara.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode, and our thanks also go to Reiko Yoshihara for agreeing to take part in both the live forum and the podcast recording. The final interview recorded live at the forum will be released soon. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can email TEFLology@gmail.com or on Twitter @TEFLology. We also have a Facebook page where we post all our updates at facebook.com/TEFLology Podcast, all one word. Finally, you can find our previous episodes on our website, www.TEFLology-podcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, why not give us a rating and a review on iTunes or on whichever platform you use to listen. Thank you again for listening.